Hello, good evening. Welcome to My Planet Rocks. I'm Wyatt, and my guest this week is the formidable leader of the band Within Temptation. It's Sharon Adel. It's My Planet Rocks on Planet Rock. My guest this week is Within Temptation singer Sharon Adel. Welcome.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. God, I'll tell you what, time flies. The last time I saw you would be nearly 8 years ago, where you came in and did a live acoustic session in our central London studios. This would have been around the spring of... This would be around when Hydra came out.
Oh, yes.
That's
quite a while ago.
I know. And I was thinking, that's not that long ago. It's,
It doesn't feel like that, does it?
I know. See, I'm half Dutch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Amsterdam. See, the name Wendell's is Dutch, and people say it doesn't sound very Dutch. And if I put a van in there...
it's very Dutch.
Beyond Amsterdam and Rotterdam, I can't even pronounce some of the suburbs and towns. I cannot say your hometown. Was it Waddinxveen?
Waddinxveen, which is actually the place I was born, and I lived there also afterwards a few years still. But nowadays I'm more in the region of Utrecht. Utrecht.
Yeah, Utrecht, as Brits say, yeah.
And I'm in a very small village in there. It's close to the forest and everything. So I picked a different town to live in nowadays.
Oh, okay. So you're at one with nature there.
Yes, Mother Earth and everything.
So when you were growing up, what got you into rock? Was it a family member? Was it yourself? You heard something on the radio? What sort of got you into the rock or blues genre?
Well, I always was surrounded by music by my parents because they were always playing music, and it was also a lot of rock music between the things they listened to. So Queen, 10cc, all those kind of bands. It was really those 60s and 70s bands that I grew up with, and so those were the first ones, and the Eagles, but it was a little bit more country, a little bit rock, of course, but ELO, which was more symphonic rock, I guess, one of the first few, I guess, and but also Black Sabbath. So I got into a little bit more heavy music on a very early age. So,
did you always want to be a singer? And this is almost like a routine question I ask singers, because more often than not, it's they wanted to be guitarists or bass players or drummers, and it just didn't work out, and they accidentally fell into vocals because no one else in the band or the area could sing.
No, for me, it's the other way around. I always wanted to sing, but I was never a bit shy to say that I wanted to sing, because if it's always combined with you want to be in the limelight or something, which I never wanted to because I actually hate it. But I love singing, so I've always wanted to sing, and the writing part only came after, because I couldn't write. The guys only wanted to play cover songs. The band I was in when I was 14, and then I said, I just want to, I'm going to write my own stuff, because I don't like the things that I have to play because they have a different taste, and I just want to do my own thing. And so that came later. But first of all, I just wanted to sing, and so yeah.
The earliest song you've chosen is an Eagles track, Witchy Woman. Why have you gone with this one?
Oh, I felt it was pretty rock and roll for them, because I think some other songs were even more sweet. But I must say, Desperado is my ultimate song of the Eagles. But, everybody plays that one. So I thought, no, let's choose another one that I like a lot.
The Eagles and Witchy Woman on My Planet Rocks with my guest this week, Sharon Adel of Within Temptation. After you started singing and have been in various bands, how soon after, or was it a long time after, did Within Temptation come about, like the really early days?
Well, I started the first band. I had a school band that I was in, and then later on I formed a cover band with some guys, and then directly afterwards I was in that band. The cover band was called Koshiro. I was in it for 5 years, I guess, from my 14th until my 19th, and then I met Robert, and that was also about the time that I wanted to make my own music, and he just crossed on my path, and we became, of course, partners for life.
Love at first chords.
Yeah, exactly. So that got me already into Within Temptation very early on. It was like there was a pre-band before Within Temptation called The Circle, and they were making similar kind of music. And a lot of bandmates that were in that band are also still in this band. So, it's been a commitment from 19-year-old kids doing the same thing, but evolved eventually.
Were people in the early days when you put the lineup together, were people dubious of being in a band with real life boyfriend and girlfriend as you were then, because if, as it was probably seen and could still be the case, if you have an argument, it's going to affect everyone at any given time.
Yeah, and also they feel like you're like the two. You're like a block. You're like a wall. The two of them pairing together. No, it is difficult. And also they have to walk on eggshells. How they say is when we have a fight, it's like, oh God, not again. and so it's difficult. I think I never saw it in the beginning like that until they pointed out to me. It's very difficult to be in the band with you guys because you're a couple, and when you fight, it's difficult. But also when you're, agreeing as the only two ones on something, it's also difficult for us. So, and I didn't realize, but after a few years when we started the band, they did speak out about that, and it became more clear that that we had to be very open to everyone's arguments and everything. It's instead of being teaming up constantly.
Am I right? Was it Robert that introduced you to Paradise Lost?
Yes, he did, but to all kinds of music that I'd never heard of, like really death metal music, and but also Paradise Lost, one of my first loves.
The reason I mention them is because you've chosen 1 second from them, which is completely couldn't be any more away from the Eagles. Why this one?
Well, I love a lot of songs, and it was difficult for me to choose one. But this is one of the songs that I think I'm also a sucker for lyrics, and I love the lyrics also. And just the title and that sentence says it all. In 1 second, it all happens.
It's My Planet Rocks on Planet Rock. My guest this week, Sharon then Adel of Within Temptation. How long did it take for the band to get a record deal and turn professional? Because obviously you'd have had various normal jobs beforehand. I mean, were you trying to be professional? Was it luck? How did that come about?
Well, before I met Robert, he was, like I said, in the band called The Circle, and they already had a record deal, and he had eventually they brought out an album. So he had a lot of experience with that and knew his way to the record companies and everything. So when I met him and I joined the band at The Circle at the time, they were already recording an album, and they asked me because their singer a lot of times just dropped out, like, I'm not coming today, I don't feel like it today, so I'm not coming. And I was like, yes, she's not coming. It's my chance. Because I love what they did, and then eventually it was like, okay, she's still coming, sorry Sharon. And I, no. And then eventually it didn't go through, but then in the end still one of the things I sang for them was still on that particular album called Frozen. And behind that, when we started over as Within Temptation, we were very it was not that difficult because we already knew how to get to a record company, how to present ourselves and everything.
The first album, Enter, came out, 1997? Around that time, once it'd been out and you'd been touring, did you think, well, this is harder than we thought? Or did you think, we're liking this, let's aim higher and see how big we can go? What sort of mindset were you in the sort of mid to late 90s?
Well, we saw this really as a hobby kind of thing. Like, we were still in school. Eventually got all our bachelor degrees for different kind of things, but not for music. And it was our plan B. Like, okay, we're just gonna enjoy the music and see how far it goes, and have our day job and not be. We didn't want to make music that people wanted us to make, so we knew it was a difficult type of music that we were making. Not a lot of female-fronted ladies out there at that time are making this kind of music, so we felt like, okay, this might be a long shot, so we'll have a solid plan B, and we'll go from there and just do our hobby until there is maybe a chance to do this a little bit more.
Yeah. You've also chosen a real symphonic rock track, which never really gets referred to as symphonic rock. This song in particular, Silent Lucidity by Queensryche. I mean, what an epic this is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got the orchestra, Jeff Tate's voice. It's like a lullaby almost.
Yeah. I was going through those songs, and I was like, I really like Empire, the song Empire a lot. Yeah. But this song still feels like it could have been, well, it doesn't, it feels very still up to date. Also sound-wise, it's a very dreamy kind of song. And where, of course, production has gone from that point until now very differently. I think if they would record songs now, it would sound, of course, totally different, but still the song would still be the same. But then Silence Lucidity would not have changed that much. That's what I chose this song also. It's one of my favorites. I really love this song.
Queensryche and the lullaby-esque Silent Lucidity on My Planet Rocks with my guest this week, Sharon and Adel of Within Temptation. Sort of bouncing around the timeline a bit. I mean, from the first album into what I would call the social media era of the last sort of 10 years, I mean, have you noticed, has there been a real change in the way the band are seen or you're seen as, you know, a female vocalist? Because previously, you always got the terms, when there was a female in a band with men, it was almost a highlight point. And only until recently has it become a case of, we don't really need to do that anymore. You don't need to be a female-fronted band. It used to almost be like a selling point in the 80s, the 90s, and earlier in the millennium. And now it's just a band. Did you find that people would almost focus, not meaning to, but almost become negative? Oh, it's a female-fronted band. It must be kind of freakish or something unique. Whereas really, you could just be a band. Who's singing is irrelevant.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That was the case. It started actually in the beginning point. It was also like in the beginning, it was like people were, you know, surprised, and it was an advantage and a disadvantage that you're a woman, because people in the beginning was like a little bit skeptic maybe about our music, and on the other hand, we were just one of the few that had a female vocalist fronting the band, and that was also special. So it was like it was well. Nobody was, not many people were doing that. So it was also special. So it was like a double kind of feeling towards our music.
Has it at least lessened in the last years, or is it still the same? Because, you know, we're a lot more conscious about labels and equality, and just we're supposedly a lot more fair-minded, although you go online at any given time, you wonder if that's really true. But is it still the same, or is it sort of improved now? People are more generic and accepting of just a band?
Well, I think it's still there, because I think this transition has only started just, that people are watching the labels they're giving people now. I think that's only since the last 1.5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't go that fast. You know, things will change gradually and people will give it another name. And but I'd rather settle for the symphonic metal band that we are.
Well, I was going to say, you've just taken the words out of my mouth. I thought we could move on to a better label, because I'd never heard the term symphonic rock until seeing it referred to you, well, going back nearly 20 years. I'm not saying you invented it, but was it around? Had you seen the term symphonic rock as a term, or metal, before Within Temptation?
Well, no. Somebody came up with it. It's not a trick question. Yeah, you know what? It also happens that a lot of bands, when they start, is like, yeah, I don't want to be, you know, compared to them, so I'm gonna make up my own term, you know, my own label. I am symphonic metal. I am, you know, they made us something up themselves. You know, if before someone else gives you a label, maybe we should think of our own. What do we want to be called?
You've chosen a track now. I love this track by Imagine Dragons, Radioactive. It's an absolutely brilliant track. It's one of those that's been on so many soundtracks of adverts, TV shows and films over the years. Why have you gone with this one?
Well, I love this particular song. I love the band also, because I think they were a new wave of how they combined a lot of productional stuff, but also how they made their songs, I guess, in a way, layering stuff and how they written lyrics. And especially this song has a hip hop flavor, I guess, to it, or a certain rhythm that's different. And I just loved it. I was so in love with this song, and I even covered it with Q Music sessions that we did at the time. And in Europe, at least not in the Benelux, this song wasn't picked up yet. And so a lot of the radio station that we were, which is a big radio station, didn't know the band that much. So that well, just like, okay, we heard a song of it, and you want to do a radio cover of that, but you have nobody knows that song, Sharon. So like, yeah, but I really like this song.
Imagine Dragons, Radioactive on My Planet Rocks, and my guest Sharon and Adel of Within Temptation. I can remember about 10 years ago, and I found this, and I don't mean this in a patronising way at all, I found it really nice and admirable as a parent myself with a young family, where you and Robert decided that because you've then had young kids, that essentially he would stay home and look after the kids, he'd record stuff, and you'd obviously go off on tour because obviously it couldn't happen without you. And I just thought that is impressive in an age where musicians essentially it's like, okay, well, mummy and daddy are away for months of the year. Was it an easy decision for both of you? Because Robert's like missing out on certain. I know he's gaining parenting, but he's missing out on potentially
on
his life dream.
stuff.
How was it?
Well, there are different sides to it. It's like we came out of a breakup because we broke up at a certain point, and it had to do with the fact that we were 24/7 always together, and we realized if we wanted to make this work together, that he or I should leave the band. And for me, it was not an option, and for him, it was an option not to leave the band really completely, but not to be in a daily basis working together. And because it's just difficult to work with your partner. I don't know how if you're a girlfriend or wife or if you have.
Well, listen, we're in lockdown, so everyone's stuck with everyone 24/7. So every relationship's being pushed to the test this year.
It's similar to that what we were going through. It's like, okay, I like my job.
Yeah.
It's nice to be out of the house sometimes. So and we decided to split that a little bit more. Yeah, and he was also looking forward to being at home with the kids and everything. It's not something that he was like. He's a very open-minded and progressive mind, and I think that's something that I really I'm proud of, to have my partner to be like that as well.
Well, we'll get pretty much up to date after this from Nirvana. You've gone with the almost obvious choice, but I mean it is pretty much their biggest known hit worldwide. Smells Like Teen Spirit, which was, I don't know about you, this was my introduction to grunge back in 1991.
Yeah, it's fun for me too, and for me it was. I know it's the obvious choice. I wanted to actually pick out a different song, but this actually is for me Nirvana. It was like breaking free from my folks, and expectations of life that they had for me, and I was rebellious at that time. When I heard this thing, I was like, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I feel like, and I was an instant fan.
Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. It is My Planet Rocks with Sharon den Adel of Within Temptation. Is there a Dutch way of saying your name, or is it just Sharon den Adel?
Sharon den Adel.
Den Adel. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. See, I can't do the Dutch accent.
Never mind.
Den Adel's fine. That'll work.
Sounds like Adele.
Yeah, it looks the same on a football shirt. It reads the same.
Exactly.
Vocalists, I mean, it's no secret that vocalists have the toughest job in the sense that your voice is your instrument. And I remember you saying, as we've established 8 years ago, which seems like 10 minutes, I'm sure you said something about you didn't have any real big regimes apart. Was it honey and water or honey and lemon you used to take for your vocal cords?
Nowadays it's ginger.
Ginger, okay. I was going to say, is it tougher to maintain the voice?
Well, the thing is, I can hear that my voice has changed. I don't sound how I sounded on the Mother Earth album at that time when I was singing it. And at that time, I only had one way of singing because I really had to still, evolve a little bit more and I guess explore a little bit more further. And also when we started changing tonalities, I could go down with my voice a little bit more. So I don't think it's always a bad thing because my voice was really, really thin sometimes when you in sound wise, and now it's more warm. And it still can go to get the same notes. But so I, in my case, I'm really happy actually that it became a little more round instead of really thin and high and edgy.
Yeah.
Which
more power and tone now then.
Yeah, a little bit more ground tones as well.
Yeah. The last album came out in Resist was out in 2019.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Yeah, you managed to tour most of that, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We had the complete tour was finished, and we were just getting ready for the tour with Evanescence that's coming up, the European tour.
That's right. Yeah, that's just been moved again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Towards the end of this year, the autumn of 2021. London's O2, which is bigger than Wembley. Birmingham Arena, Leeds Arena, which is, I think, even bigger. That's also bigger than Wembley. Glasgow Hydro, that's an arena. I mean, did you imagine that you would get this big?
Well, it is, of course, something that as a musician you're always dreaming, like, wow, that would be amazing. But I must say, to be honest, I love the fact that we're doing these big venues and everything and arenas. But it's for me, it doesn't matter if there's 10,000 or 30,000 or 40,000 people watching, it's still a big crowd. And then sometimes when you go back to the very small venues, it's the combination of small and big that I like so much, because big venues, of course, you can do so much bigger, show, and so much more atmosphere you can put in there, like flames, but also big screens and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But on the small stages, you have more, sometimes more interaction. So both have their magic, I guess.
Yeah, well, here's hoping the magic returns sooner rather
totally.
than later. Let's finish with Linkin Park. Don't play them that often. They were they had a massive introduction into the music scene around 2002. Hybrid Theory was the album for many, and they were a great hybrid band because it was like rock, there was almost like rap. They were a real good crossover of sort of heavier genres.
Totally. And for me, it was like a breath of fresh air, good songs, production-wise, aggressive metal, beat-driven hip-hop, and emotionally intense, which I love, because that's all the bands that I've chosen for you guys today. It's all, it touches me somehow, and especially the emotion touches me.
It's a great track to finish with, and here's hoping we see you later in 2021.
I hope so too. Hope to see you guys, and thank you so much for today.